Well, greetings, Series 24 test takers. This is Dean Tenney coming to you from my studio here in fabulous Las Vegas. I've been trying to add to our Series 24 playlist some more content. Shout out to Kaplan. Kaplan has allowed my members, subscribers, and viewers free look on Kaplan questions. With the Guru 10 discount code, you can buy a Kaplan QBank or any other Kaplan product, and I highly recommend it. What I did on the Series 7 is I put some practice questions on that I use in class, and I'm going to do the same here. So these are going to be some 24 questions that we work in our 2-day class, and thought maybe if you're not your self-study or using someone else, just extra questions. I know how many people on the channel just love practice questions. So here's 50 plus for you that I will explicate. All right, so let's get started. The following dealer quotes for XPL, a global market stock, appear on level 2. So a level 2 NASDAQ data feed shows you the market makers. We don't have the MPID, the market participant ID, kind of like a vanity license plate like GSEO or MLCO to tell us who these market makers are. But we do have their bid and their ask, their bid and ask. Now, level 1 NASDAQ data feed shows you the inside quote. And the inside quote or inside market, very testable, is the highest bid and the lowest ask. And so the answer would be A is an atom. I would also know that the markup is based on the lowest asking price or the inside ask. So if market maker there too charging $15.25 as a markup and the lowest ask is $15.13, that markup is 12 cents. And then it would be the opposite for the markdown. Everybody here is at $14.50. But a markdown would be based on the highest bid, the inside bid. Level 3 is what these market makers have. And a level 3 NASDAQ data feed allows you to input quotes. And very important, you don't put in a quote that would lock the market, make the bid and the ask the same, or cross the market, have a bid that's higher than the ask. All right, number 2. The answer to number 1 is A is an atom. 2, member firms may contract. By the way, what you might want to do is hit pause before I tell you what the answers are and explain them and see how you did before I explain it to you. 2, member firms may contract with a non-member in underwriting. So we can't give concessions, discounts, and allowances to non-members with 2 testable exceptions, and this is one of them. We can, as a member firm, a broker-dealer, give a concession, discount, or allowance to a bank if we're underwriting munis, because munis are exempt. And if all a bank wants to do is sell municipal securities, they don't need to join a FINRA. And so the answer here is C. Now, the other testable exception would be a foreign firm ineligible for membership. During the waiting period for an initial public offering of common stock, a member firm in the underwriting group is permitted to do which of the following? So we're asking about the cooling off period, and what you can do during the cooling off period, which is a minimum of 20 days, accept indications of interest. The answer is A is an atom. You should definitely know the indications of interest are non-binding on all parties. You should definitely know that. 4, trade an XYZ stock between 2 market makers in that stock takes place at 5 p.m. Eastern time. A transaction report must be made. Typically the seller reports within 10 seconds. So the answer is A. I would not worry at all about a Reg A plus offering. It's been raised to 75 million. And what they do when they change things is they remove it from the QBank and then they reintroduce it at some point. So the former answer used to be D at 50 million. Now it's 75 million. And again, I wouldn't expect this to be reintroduced for some time. Stabilizing bids, very testable. Stabilizing bid is a legal form of pegging. I have a lecture on this in the Series 24 playlist. This is for firm commitment underwritings. Only one syndicate member can do this. Sometimes we refer to them as the stabilization agent. It has to be in the prospectus. Better to have in the prospectus and not need it than need it and not have it. And so it's going to be at or below 2 and 3, which is choice C. It makes sense when you think about it, because if it was above, it would give the false impression that it's a hot issue instead of what it truly is, which is a sticky issue. 7, to protect the national interest, the Securities and Exchange Act of 1934 regulates which of the following. You should know that new issues is 33. 33 and 34 are companion pieces of legislation. Congress knew when they passed 33, they're going to come back in January and pass 34. And so it's not A. There we go. Fair and orderly markets, right? The SEC is very concerned that markets are fair and orderly. In fact, 34 created the SEC. Which of the following is not allowed when holding a customer limit order at 21? This is called limit order protection. So we call these a Manning rules because Mr. Manning got so upset, he filed a class action lawsuit. And a lot of the rules you're getting tested on are a result of the settlement of that. Anyways, what Mr. Manning is going to be upset about is if I buy it for myself, my inventory at 21 or less when I'm actually holding his order, right? So the answer here is B as in boy. B as in boy. 9, Regulation FD covers, I call it no whispers, right? Chairman Levitt was the chairman at the time we passed this. I like it. The selective disclosure of material non-public information. No, you're supposed to be able to tell everybody, no whispering, right? All your shareholders are entitled to the same information. And what other people get in trouble for is making selective disclosure, for example, to an institutional investor or whatever the case may be. A trade was executed for 500 shares of AMDK. AMDK. And it says the trade report for an OTC equity security, the trade for an OTC equity security is going to be done with which FINRA facility? The answer is C, the over-the-counter reporting facility. You should know TRACE. I would know TRACE is for debt securities, the trade reporting compliance engine. I wouldn't worry too much about trade reporting facility NASDAQ, but the answer to this one is C. 11, which of the following are covered under the holding period? Be careful, giant reading test. They're not asking about volume notations. This isn't a question about volume notations. It's a question about holding periods. So the holding period under Rule 144 is about unregistered securities, and then we have to hold them 6 months. And so the answer is 2 and 4, which is D. A customer purchased a unit investment trust. How many days after the offering may they be margined? So Reg T says we're not allowed to extend a credit on new issues. And a UIT, when it's issued, is a new issue. So no credit extension. It's considered a credit, a new issue 30 days from the effective date. And so the answer is B as in boy. B as in boy. 13. Which of these instructions can best be described as a discretionary order? So as long as the 3 A's are present, it's not a discretionary order. You know, we are allowed to make decisions about time and price. That's called execution. And that's not constitute discretion. So what we do in these questions is we go through and we look for the 3 A's. So 13, sell, there's the action. Action is where the buyer sells 300 shares. There's the amount ABC. The 3 A's are present. It's not a discretionary order. Let's look at B. Action, buy 25,000. There's the amount. MBC, the 3 A's are present. Action, amount, asset. Let's look at C. Sell, action, 100 shares amount, PDQ. There's the asset, acceptable. D, there's the action. There's the amount, but there's no security. If 1, 2, or all 3 of the A's are missing, in this case 1, that's a discretionary order. So the answer to 13 is D is in dog. D is in dog. Under the Uniform Practice Code, rules of good delivery, or partial delivery. So this is between the Uniform Practice Code standardizes secondary trading practices between broker dealers. You can imagine what a mess the securities industry would be if everybody's conducting a business differently. So that's what the Uniform Practice Code is about. It's not about customers. It's about me, the selling broker dealer, making sure I have the securities in the proper deliverable form so the buying broker dealer will accept and give me my money. And the answer to 14 is A. A. So if the buying broker dealer is willing to accept partial delivery, well, then, everything's copacetic. Regulation AC, analyst certification, applies to research reports on which covered securities. Well, it's for all of these: common stock, convertible, non-convertible. Now, you will get tested on what are called non-equivalent securities. And make sure you know the difference between convertible debt and equity being considered equivalent securities, and straight debt, and equity and convertibles being non-equivalent securities in terms of research rules. Okay, test prep questions. I mentioned these are questions we're doing in our 2-day series 24 that I'm sharing with you just to give you 50 plus additional series 24 practice questions. A registered rep has been called into active military service. All the following statements are true except the registered rep continues to receive commissions on the book during deployment. That's true. I'm looking for something that's false. The regulatory element of CE will be waived. That's true. I'm looking for something that's false. The firm element of CE will be waived. That's true. I'm looking for something that's false. Process of elimination, it's D. The registered rep's registration goes into a category called inactive. Number 2, an outside independent bookkeeper has been contracted to perform monthly trial balances. Well, now you know we are required to have monthly trial balances. Sometimes you get free information in a question. Which of the following is true with regard to the bookkeeper? Anybody involved in accounting, support unit activities where there's monies and securities involved is required to be fingerprinted. So the answer to test prep 2 is B. All U4s are accompanied with a fingerprint card, and somebody who's handling monies and securities definitely needs to be fingerprinted. 3, which of the following would be deemed a violation of FINRA rules? Reporting a non-citizen, registering a non-citizen representative. No, that's fine. There's nothing wrong with that. Submitting fingerprints cards, not a problem. Parking, you should definitely know parking a registration is a big no-no. You're not supposed to, everybody calls it, hey, I don't follow that U5 on me, man. I don't want to start that clock ticking. And so the answer is C, parking a registration is a big no-no. A lot of people don't know this. I can't tell you how many people accidentally are requesting something by the phrase that is not good, right? Can you park this for me? So apparently maybe they don't understand it's a bad thing. Test prep 4, an associated person with the firm has failed a qualification exam 4 times. After 3, and now this is the 4th, once you go past 3 and 4 is now past that, there's a 180-day wait period. So you miss it the first time, 30 days, second time, 30 days, third time, 30 days, and then you got 6 months every time moving forward. The answer is D, as in dog. A year following the departure of a registered rep from the firm, a serious infraction of FINRA rules was uncovered. What must the firm do? You're going to file an amended Form U5, and Veritas will know that amendments to U4s or U5s, anything that was a no answer that becomes a yes answer, must be done within 30 days. So I definitely know that as well. All right, so we're moving through the various practice questions I do in a 2-day series 24 class. So this is our, we take a break, we do questions, we come back, we do more questions. So this is our second set of questions we'd be doing in our 2-day. The first 15 we did were what we call a warm up or pre-test, and now we're working there through to provide you with 50 plus additional questions. So you can hit pause, see how you do, and then, see my explication of it. All the following statements regarding branch office are true except, so again, we're looking for something that's false. A person in charge of a branch may be qualified as a Series 7 representative. Then indeed, there's what's called a small office exemption. So that's true. A branch may operate from a home office. That's true. A branch may share a location with a bank. That's true. There's some rules about that, but networking rules, but that's true. D, business cards of a registered rep working at a branch must show the address of the Office of Supervisory Jurisdiction. No, the answer to test prep 1 here is D, right? The address would be that of the branch, not that of the OSJ. So the answer is D as in dog. A registered rep may conduct business from his vacation home and maintain his non-branch status as long as it's used for less than, the answer is C, 30 days. Test prep free. Which of the following statements about prime brokerage is true? So, if I'm a hedge fund using a prime broker, I'm expecting my prime broker to provide me with custody and financing. And then what I want to be able to do as a hedge fund is be able to do, business with whoever I'd like. I mean, nobody has a monopoly on ideas. And I want to be able to tell the executing broker that if it's their idea, I'll execute through them, and they can get the commission markup or markdown, depending on whether they're trading as an agent or as a dealer principal. Executing brokers must register as prime brokers. No, you get to decide as a broker dealer whether you want to participate in this line of business. Prime brokerage customers must maintain 100,000 equity. And there we go. C. Large buy-side hedge funds look to prime brokers for financing and centralized clearing. Again, I don't want to get 8 different sets of statements from people I'm doing business with. One set of statements. That's why it's my prime broker. They provide my margin finance, my clearing. So I tell my executing broker to settle up with them. The answer to test prep 3 is C. Test prep 4, all the following forms are mandatory for a margin account except. You should definitely know that a loan consent form is not mandatory. We don't make a client lend their securities. It's not in a person who's long the securities' best interest to help people establish short positions. And so that documentation on the margin account, it is A is an add-on. The loan consent form is not mandatory. It's optional. So A. Test prep 5, the SMA and account. Now, don't get too hung up on SMA. I highly recommend that you make, debit by 0.75, credit by 1.3. I have a carve out lecture on that. You definitely should know the 2000, but don't get too hung up on margin as a Series 24 test taker. Anyways, the SMA, the special memorandum to my account, is a holding tank for my excess equity. And if I borrow it as cash, it's not 2 to 1, it's 1 to 1. A is not correct. If I use my SMA to buy additional securities 2 times or 200%, that is correct. It would be B. So if I have 5,000 in SMA, I could have 5,000 as cash, or I can buy $10,000 worth of additional securities. The answer is B. Test prep 6, I always call this stupid but testable. Stupid but testable. If you buy less than $2,000 in a new account, initial transaction, new account, you're going to pay in full. But if you buy between $2,000 and $4,000, you're going to pay $2,000. That's set by the self-regulatory organization. So this is 100 shares at 36. If this was an established account, it would be $1,800, but it's not an established account. So it's $2,000. I hold a separate little lecture on this. It's stupid, but it is indeed testable. Simplified arbitration is available for disputes no more than, and it's A, $50,000. Now, this Series 24 is very good at giving you answers for different things that are, distractors here, but could have been the right answer for some other thing. It's also simplified. The answer is A, 50 grand, and that there's one arbitrator and start to finish 30 days. 100 grand would have been the right answer to the minimum net capital of a market maker. 250 would have been an answer to 2 things: maximum cash under SIPC, as well as minimum net capital for a clearing firm. And 500,000 is the maximum for SIPC coverage. So the answer to 7 is A. The statute of limitations for arbitration is 6 years. A is an atom. And then that makes sense. Why? And then that makes customer record 6 years, because it would be bad form to be going into an arbitration case and the customer has records that we do not have. Number 9, if a representative possesses material inside information about a publicly traded company, under which circumstances may he communicate this information to a customer? D, under no circumstances. D, under no circumstances. Boy, if you miss that one, it's going to be a long day at the testing site if you miss that one. Well, as I mentioned, we're moving our way through the various practice questions that we do in a 2-day Series 24. And after we do each section, then we do a couple practice questions on it. I'm providing these 50 plus practice questions because I know that Series 24 is people on the YouTube channel. My YouTube channel love practice questions. So anytime I can get an opportunity to share some with you, I'm more than happy to do so. Please do not call me and ask me for this PDF. You're not going to get it. So that's not what the channel is set up to do. So you can hit pause, you can screenshot, whatever you'd like to do, make flashcards, take notes, whatever you want. Test prep 1, an introducing firm makes a market. So trick here, remember, is if I'm an introducing firm, maybe you're thinking 5 or 50, but then it says make a market. So if you're more than one line of business, you have to rise and meet whatever that highest number is. And so here is a market maker, 12 stocks above 5 would be 2,500 per. And if it's under 5, it's 1,000 per, but we have a floor at $100,000. And so the answer here is D, $100,000. Now, once again, these other numbers could have been right answers to different questions. For example, 25,000 is net capital for a broker dealer doing mutual funds by wire. 30 grand would be below 30. The mutual fund wire person would be an early warning because 120%. Below that is early warning, and that would be 30 for 120%, 25. And 50 is for an introducing firm that accepts customers' monies and securities for prompt forwarding to their clearing firm. The answer to this one is D as in dog. Under 17A11, all the following require immediate notification to FINRA except. Now, I should know that C and D do, because C and D are violations of net capital. That's the most egregious sin you could make. So I should definitely know C and D. It's an except question. So now I have a 50-50. I got to decide what's more important, books and records or material inadequacy. It's going to be books and records because you might be in violation of net capital. So the answer here is an except B. B is not immediately, right? B is 24 hours. So the answer to test prep 2 is B as in boy. The clearing firm must provide its correspondent introducing firms with a list of exception reports for their use, because what I'm trying to do is, again, get rid of the exceptions. What are things my clearing firm have known that are exceptions, not part of the regular course of business? And that's C, July 1st of each year. Test prep 4, which of the following would be deemed a sales practice violation? You know, the code of conduct is the ethical behavior that broker dealers and associated persons owe customers. And this is certainly one of them, right? Avoiding the breakpoint to maximize my commission. The answer is B. That is a violation of the code of conduct. You should definitely know some violations of code of conduct, like, you know, breakpoint sales, B, selling dividends, you know, all the bad things. On this test, you got to believe in human depravity and original sin, right? A 66-year-old investor purchased a variable annuity. That is very odd. A 66-year-old investor, a senior who's buying a non-qualified retirement plan, really? I think what I'm going to be interested in is a suitability. So the answer is A, suitability. All the following may be used to verify a customer's identity, except we need a picture ID. Under the Patriot Act, we need to know and verify you are who you claim to be, and we have to have processes to close that account if we're unable to identify you. And so here I might have used the Sesame Street trick. One of these things is not like the other. The reason the birth certificate doesn't work is because it is not a picture ID. We need a picture ID. So birth certificate does not work under the Patriot Act customer identification procedures. All following may be found on the customer confirmation except, well, A is nonsensical. Commission when the firm is acting as a dealer. When acting as a dealer, we do not charge commissions. We charge markups or markdowns. So right out of the gate, we know that 2 is going to be A. Preference order payment flow. We don't describe the whole thing, but we tell you how to find out. Control relationships. Yes. If I'm a Merrill Lynch broker and I sell you Bank of America stock on the confirm, it will say there's a control relationship between the issuer, Bank of America, and Merrill Lynch. Further, we can't use discretionary authority when there's a control relationship. So as a Merrill broker, I can't use my discretionary authority to sell you Bank of America. Disclosure crossing stock, absolutely. So the answer to 2 is A. Customer statements are sent quarterly if there's no activity, quarterly if there is activity, quarterly if the account has penny stocks, quarterly if the account has fixed income security. So we send accounts quarterly. And so the answer to number 3 is A. And we send them monthly. And I would know that if there's a penny stock in the account. So a penny stock would be a non-NASDAQ OTC stock under 5. So the answer to 3 is A. Test prep 4. Each of the following regarding a power of attorney are true except. So I'm looking for something that is not true. Power of attorney must be received promptly after the first discretionary trade. And that's got to be in place before we do the first trade. A is the answer because, again, it's except. Durable power of attorney survive incapacitation. That's true. A limited power allows you to third-party trade. That's true. The difference is limited and full, by the way, is that I can only trade your account. I can't withdraw monies and securities. And D is true. All powers of attorney cease upon the customer's death. Which of the following statements is true? Institutional communications always require prior principal approval. That is not true. If we have proper training in place, institutional communications do not require prior principal approval if they're trained in the firm's procedures. The answer is B. I recently put up a little carve out on retail communications. Make sure you do know that. As a 24, if it's correspondence, very testable, 25 or fewer in a 30-day period. You as a principal can approve pre or post distribution. If it's retail communication, more than 25, you as a principal need to approve it pre-distribution. Well, as I mentioned, after each of our little sections in our 2-day class, we do some practice questions. I'm sharing those with you. Let me know in the comments if you find it helpful. I do have permission, as I mentioned, to give free look on capital questions like these to my subscribers, viewers, and members. And I plan on doing a Kaplan 24 final in this same format where I'll just go through it and I'll talk about the question and I just have to find the time to do that. I'll also do that for 9 and 10 at some point. I've done it on our other playlists. So if you look at our SIE playlist, I've done a practice final there. There's 4 of them, one mine, one Test Geek, one Kaplan, and that's kind of the game plan moving forward. Anyways, test prep 1. A broker dealer has an order to buy and sell the same security at the same price. Much must occur before the orders can be crossed. So the New York Stock Exchange has what's called Rule 76. And Rule 76 says, how do you know there's not a better price available unless you take it into the crowd to see? So the answer here is C. It requires you to add a penny. I would know, by the way, it's a penny better. So Rule 76, New York Stock Exchange. The answer is C as in Charlie. Test prep 2. A market maker of a global select stock wishes to apply for an excused withdrawal. So excused is, there's 2 types of ways to withdraw your quotes. One is keyboard withdrawal, not so good. And the other is excused withdrawal. And you can certainly do that for a religious holiday. Absolutely. The firm software must be updated. Absolutely. Your chief trader has material non-public information. Probably shouldn't be trading against others if you have material non-public information. D, no. In fact, that's just so counterintuitive because people who are trading securities like volatility. So there's an opportunity for us as market makers to make a lot of money if the prices are fluctuating wildly. So the answer to test prep 2 is D as in dog. A quote is entered at 22.50.23. So what that means in English is I'm willing to buy that into my inventory at 22.50. I'm willing to sell it out of my inventory at 23. The inside quote is 23.15. 23.25. So I have now got a situation in which the market has been crossed. We end up with a bid higher than the ask. Now, I would suggest you make an exhibit, and I have a great lecture on the 24 playlist on trading. So I'm only doing a handful of questions here, but please watch that. I think it's like an hour long, and I get all kinds of people say it was very, very helpful. So please find that on the playlist and watch it, particularly if you're a packaged product person. If you're, 24, we have many people. I have many classes where everybody passes. And when we lose somebody, we don't lose them by much. And it's usually somebody who's like a mutual fund person. And they, are struggling with the quote and whose perspective and trading. So heads up for you. The answer to 3 is D. Which of the following is true regarding the trade reporting and compliance engine? The trade reporting and compliance engine. Trade is a trade reporting facility for equity securities. And that's a bad miss because you should definitely know it's for debt. It's a dual side reporting, both the buyers and the sellers report. So that means C is out. And municipal bonds report through trades. And the answer is B. B. We're trying to drag the bond guys into the modern age. Stocks are 10 seconds, but here it's 15 minutes. So test prep 4 is C is in Charlie. Or excuse me, my bad. B. I said it right and I picked the wrong thing. Every once in a while somebody put in the comments saying, Dean, what do you mean? It's B as in boy. Test prep 4 is B as in boy. A market maker is holding a customer limit order to buy 300 shares at 21.35. And I buy 200 shares for me at 21.34. The way I think of this is whatever I do for myself, I have to do for my client as well. That's my minimum obligation in terms of limit order protection, right? So if he wants to buy 300 shares at 21.35 and I buy 200 shares, for me, price improvement 21.34, I have to be willing to do the same for the customer. So the answer to test prep 5 is A. I got to do the same for the customer. T1. So we have T1, we have T2, and we have T3. So T1 means that news is pending. That's what T1 means. T2 would be the news has been released, and then T3 is when we start entering the quotes again. So the answer to number 6 is D as in dog. D as in dog. An alternative display market maker voluntarily withdraws as a market maker. So you didn't ask for excused withdrawal. Excused withdrawal would have been B, 5 business days. But you're saying you no longer want to make a market in this stock no more. And so that is 20 business days. So test prep 7 is D as in dog. D as in dog. When calculating accrued interest for a corporate bond, all the following are considered except. All of our consider except. So every month has 30 days. That is indeed true. That is indeed true. Regular way settlement, that's a typo. That should say T plus 2. So B, regular way settlement is T plus 2, not T plus 3. So B is true. We're looking for something's false. For bonds that pay on the 15th, it was 16. Yeah, the first month is either going to be 30 or 16. Accrued interest calculated up to and including. No. Does not include. So the answer is D as in dog. D as in dog. Now, on trades just prior to the X date, every once in a while we screw it up and somebody gets a dividend that they're not entitled to. And a due bill is an IOU to the buyer saying, hey, we know you're not entitled to this. We're working on fixing it. So we can only mess it up prior to the X, because remember on the X date, it's no longer trading with that dividend. And so it's on trades just prior to the X. And so we don't need it on the X date because there's no way to screw that up. The answer is B as in boy. An offering which one or more of the major stockholders of the corporation are selling all of their major portion of their holdings is called, that's called D, a secondary offering, right? Primary is where the issuer receives the proceeds. Secondary is where the previous owner. Now, offering just means we're not talking about doing this on New York or NASDAQ. We're going to form syndicates and do it like if it were a new issue. Test prep 2, all the following securities would be exempt from filing with the Committee on Corporate Finance except, Corporate Finance Department except, the answer is A, preferred stock is exempt from the filing. Test prep 3, a prospectus delivery requirement for an additional public offering. That's important. So this is a follow-on of an exchange listed stock. That's important, is 0, right? So the 90, 40, and 25 would be for either initial or follow-on. Initial, regardless of where it's at, or follow-on, depending where it's at. It's market center. And so the answer to 3 is A. 4, which of the following is true regarding FINRA Rule 5130? A registered representative's aunt is not considered to be a restricted person. That is true. Your aunt is not part of the immediate family. And so here, A is true, B, C, and D are not. Those people would be what we call restricted persons in terms of IPO allocation. Test prep 5, a private placement. There's 2 versions of Reg D. There's 506B, where I cannot solicit it, and I can have up to 35 non-accredited investors. And 506C, where I can solicit, and I can have no non-accredited investor. This is a 506B, and so the answer to 5 is maybe sold to an unlimited number of non-accredited investors. That's certainly false, right? Because I just told you we can only have 35. We can use an online questionnaire to qualify prospects. That sounds reasonable. A general solicitation, no. Remember, the solicitation would be for 506C. You may not sell it to non-accredited investors. I just told you you can. It would be 35. Research reports must disclose. Well, now be careful. The word here is must. It's not a must. It's if I choose to. If I refer to my prior recommendations, then there's some additional things. That's not what this question is about. This is just saying, what must I disclose? And it would be 2 and 4, the date and price of the research report, and 4 if we want to have more. Now, 1 and 3 would be if I refer to a prior recommendation, that would kick in 1 and 3. So I didn't have anything in here about that. So the answer is D. Under SEC Rule 10b-13, a target company has how many days to provide shareholders with a statement regarding acceptance, rejection, or no opinion? So this is Elon Musk and Twitter, right? Twitter has 10 days to respond to tell you whether they think you should accept the offer at 54.20 or reject that offer. Now, Elon has to leave the tender open for 20 days, and if he amends it, he has to extend that period. Rule 144 deals with the sale of, again, 144. We call a lot of words for the same thing. Legend stock, because in the old days, they had red letters, stop transfer, said stop transfer. So some people refer to unregistered stock to this day as legend or lettered stock, red letter stock. It's restricted stock, right? So lots of language, but it certainly deals, 144 certainly deals with that about the holding period. Control stock, yes, 144 has volume limitations for control persons, insiders who might sell control stock. That includes their affiliates, their immediate family members. It has to do with restricted securities, absolutely. It has to do with securities you got directly from the issuer, not a public marketplace. I'm paraphrasing, but that's what 4 says. So yes, it's 1, 2, 3, and 4. Okay, so I hope you found these 50 plus practice questions helpful. Let me know in the comments section if you did. I'm trying to get more 24 content, 9, 10 content, but as you know, you're more of a limited audience than SIE Series 7, 66. I want to provide that to you as candidates because, again, I appreciate all the referrals that you 24s and 9s and 10s give to your new folks about the channel and the resources available to them. So I'm working on it. Be patient. I should have a 24 practice final up at some point in the near future. Talk to you later. Bye-bye.